Well, he's inspired us in so many ways. Watching Army veteran Noah Galloway on Dancing with the Stars showed us just a small sample of his strength and determination. The Purple Heart recipient lost 2 limbs in Operation Iraqi Freedom, and he lost much more than that, too. Yet he never gave up and managed to succeed against all odds. Noah shares his fascinating life story in a new memoir called Living with No Excuses, and we are delighted to have Noah Galloway joining us today on Talk of the Town. It is great to meet you.
It's nice to meet you, and thank you for having me on.
Glad to have you. Okay, so you say in the book that you always believed as a kid that you were a superhero.
Yes.
And yet you didn't want to be called a war hero.
Well, yeah, as a kid, I thought I was a superhero. I thought I was invincible.
Yeah.
And with time and age and experience, I figured out and learned that there are no superheroes. Mm-hmm. And what I was doing when I went to combat, just like so many other men and women, was I just wanted to serve my country. And so that, I don't feel like that was enough to be called a hero. I was just doing my part.
Yeah. Yeah, you signed up after 9/11.
I did. I was in college, dropped right out of college immediately after 9/11 to join the military.
You had a life-changing experience, obviously, losing 2 limbs in Operation Iraqi Freedom. What were those first days like?
The first days were very difficult. I mean, it was, when I got injured, when that roadside bomb went off, I had no idea it had happened. I didn't wake up for about 5 days. And when I was in the hospital, I was still kind of confused and unaware. And it was my mom who told me that I lost my left arm, my left leg, and all the other injuries I had. And it was really a shock, because I had joined the military and it was on my second deployment. With both deployments, you leave with the knowledge you may not come back. I had accepted death as a possibility. Sure. And I was in the military, found a career, so I thought I was either going to retire one day at old age or I was going to die in combat. I never expected to wake up in a hospital with 2 of my limbs gone. So it was a very sad moment for me, and it was a lot to deal with.
Well, not only that, but also you and your wife had already decided that you were going to be separating
Yes.
and divorcing.
Yes,
so
it was
there
all
you were
kind of
with
happening
almost
at the same
nothing.
time, yes. And it was terrifying. Yeah, I felt like that I had nothing left, that it was all over. And it was actually, I talk about in the book, that it was about, a couple of weeks into it, my sisters brought my son Colston, who was about a year old, to see me in the hospital. I was in the physical therapy lab. And I remember that moment of seeing him and just being overrun with emotion and crying and having that realization that I did have something to strive for, to be better, that it all wasn't taken away.
You're so vulnerable in this book, and you talk about struggling with depression.
Yes.
How do you get through that?
That's the reason why I wanted to do the book. Was a lot of people that do know my story, they know about my injuries, they know that I got back into fitness, started running Tough Mudders, marathons, was on the cover of Men's Health, Dancing with the Stars, and that all sounds incredible and magical, but they're missing a big piece of the puzzle, and that was 5 years of depression that I struggled with. And I've had people say, what was that one thing that got you out of it? And there is no one thing. In the book, I go into great detail of mistakes that I made. Self-medicating with alcohol and all these different things, and just not being the person I should have been, and then thinking I needed to get up and going and have something else knock me down. So there were several things that each time I'd get knocked down, I'd get back up, I was a little bit closer. And what I want to do with this book is to have someone to read it and relate to it. Because the story of being injured and have these incredible things happen without that big piece of the puzzle, it's not relatable. And I want this one to be.
Yeah, and I think anybody can relate to this, whether they've lost a limb, or gone through anything
Yes.
difficult in their life. If you're struggling with depression,
Yes.
these are universal truths.
Exactly. That's one thing that I think that we have gotten better at understanding depression, but we still have a ways to go. And me opening up and being honest in this book, it was difficult. It was hard to do, and even when the book was done and I was going through it, there were moments I thought, I can't believe I'm about to share this with these readers, but I had to remind myself that it's for a bigger cause. It's to really get that out there of what depression is.
How's life for you today?
Oh, life is incredible. It is so good.
Yeah. 3 sons.
No, 2 sons and a little girl.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
yeah.
well, in the
Yeah.
book, my little girl's name is Ryan.
Oh,
R-I-A-N. So
maybe
it does.
that's how I
It
got
throws people off. It
confused.
throws people off.
Yeah. So you get to be a dad, but you're doing a lot of motivational speaking
Yes,
too.
I do. I get to do a lot of traveling. I get to go to schools, businesses, churches. It's an incredible experience to go and share my story. And it's funny, I'll go and speak, and I've had people say that I motivated and inspired them. But what they don't realize is every time I get in front of a group of people and I share my story, it motivates me. It reminds me that I got to keep going. I got to keep striving for more.
It's not the way you expected life to turn out, but would you have changed it if you could?
Not at all. Where I am today, 10 years after my injury, the relationship I have with my children and the life I have, I wouldn't change anything. I needed that injury, I needed that depression to be the man I am today.
What a great story. Living with No Excuses. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Noah's book is called Living with No Excuses, and it's available wherever books are sold.